Normal programming has been suspended.
This video has nothing to do with TF2. I've been taking a break from the game, as you may know, but as I'm lucky enough to have this platform and viewership, I wanted to talk about a few topics that I felt were a bit more meaningful. Now, I don't like using the word meaningful as it's overused and ironically always feels to me less meaningful. But when I say this, all I mean is talk about things that are, I guess, more important in the grand scheme of things and may have some kind of small positive impact on a few of you. And if 10 of you find this interesting, or if it helps 2 of you deal with some stuff, then I guess it was worth it. Now, this was always going to be a difficult transition for the channel. I mean, it was hard enough going from TF2 to Overwatch, let alone going from TF2 to speaking about mental health. But if you do just want TF2, all I can offer you is some lovely footage in the background and the mute button. And in case you're not interested but you're kind of annoyed because you want to click away but you're not sure if Toofty's dying or has gone mental or something like that, then don't worry, I'm fine. To summarise, I get some weird anxiety symptoms. It's almost certainly caused by work, and it's just so weird that I wanted to share with you guys in case any of you have or will experience something similar. Most of you won't have had any mental health stuff happen in your life, hopefully. Let's say maybe 90% of you. And growing up, I was the same. The topic of mental health, not something I really cared about much. It didn't affect me. It was a bit like a war in a faraway country that you know is bad, but you find it hard to care about, which is probably not a great analogy at the moment. So I completely understand what it's like to be a normie. But as I gradually turned into an ancient boomer, I've had some strange things happen to me that I'm constantly told is down to anxiety or stress, and so I wanted to share this stuff with you in case any of you end up going through something similar. Now, I can only speak from my very limited perspective. I'm sure everyone's experiences with this kind of thing is different, so don't think of this as a well-researched video. It's just one chap's experience. Just wanted to throw that caveat in there in case I offend everyone. But my body likes to go a bit mental sometimes, and doctors keep telling me it's probably just stress or anxiety manifesting itself. It started about 8 years ago, but recently it's gotten worse, and I'm now at the point where it's probably fair to say I may have something like general anxiety disorder, which is a mental health condition. But for me, the first point I wanted to make is that the term mental health doesn't quite fit my experiences. Better suited would be something like subconscious health condition, parts of the body that are controlled by instinctive and deep psychological systems health condition. Because my mind, or at least the parts I'm in charge of, are perfectly fine, thank you very much. I consider myself to be very rational, logical, sensible, and yet despite this, something that I'm clearly not in control of likes to step in and mess stuff up. Something in my mind so out of my control and so separate from my conscious mind that you may as well think of it as a body part, like an arm or a leg. And sometimes this thing, this innate instinctual part of my psyche, makes my body feel very real sensations, which can affect what I'm doing, and this can happen at sometimes seemingly quite random times as well. It's not like, oh, a family member died and now I have this huge presentation at work. Okay, I feel a bit tense, that makes sense. It's more like, that was a mildly busy week at work, but I think it went well. At least we have a nice long weekend now. Oh God, what's this pain in my chest? I can't breathe. Oh dear God, I think I'm dying. What I experience is just so bizarre that even to this day, I'm still a little bit skeptical of what the doctors tell me. And this is the main reason I wanted to share my experience with you, because it's not what you imagine something like this would be, something like anxiety. I can't speak for other mental health issues, of course, but as I said, I've been poked and squeezed and prodded, and they always say the same thing. There's nothing wrong with you, mate. Sometimes, to be honest, I wish I did have a finger missing or something a bit more clear-cut and obvious, so at least I knew what was going on and what to expect. I go to a meeting where I have no responsibilities to do anything and my mind is like, right, I think we're probably about to fight a lion, so let's engage fight or flight systems, let's get that adrenaline and cortisol pumping, keep it going until we can't breathe, that would be great. I feel weird even saying I have anxiety. It just seems like such a vague term, and it sounds like it has something to do with emotions or feelings when that's just not how it seems to me. And I think there will always be people who find it hard to understand because it seems like it's related to feelings and emotions, things that should be somewhat under your control. But to those people, the best way I can describe what I've been experiencing, at least, is imagine you have a condition that causes a soreness in your heart and lungs every now and then. It's kind of the same as that. being as specific as I can with the sensations. It's essentially a tightness or a pressure on the chest, but I always think these phrases sound figurative, but I mean literally. Imagine trying to concentrate at work if someone has lightly tightened a clamp around your chest. It really is that weird. Alternatively, you could imagine it like you have been coughing all day and now you have a soreness in your chest, or another way to think of it is like you've been doing loads of sit-ups and your muscles ache, but that aching sensation is actually around the heart and lung area. Now, anyone with medical training might be getting a bit worried at this point. Toofty, I think you could actually be dying. But like I said, I've seen doctors many a time and the tests always say things are normal. I don't believe them either. There is other stuff like breathlessness. I've also had the occasional moment, which I'm assuming is a panic attack, where I wake up with my heart beating like mad and I can't breathe, that kind of thing. But this has only happened a handful of times and may or may not be related. And the reason I wanted to describe all this stuff is that I don't think many people actually talk about this kind of thing in detail. I mean, maybe they do. Maybe there are channels that cover this, but I thought it was interesting because if you were experiencing similar stuff, I imagine it would be so nice to hear this from another person and to know you're not alone. It's not something I've told most people, until kind of now, I guess. In fact, I think pretty much just my wife knows. I mean, it's not something you want to bring up in a job interview, and it's just not something I really like to talk about much. I'm quite a private person, he says to 20,000 people. Maybe some people wouldn't get it, and I don't want to be considered a burden or delicate or to be treated differently. And to be honest, I also don't really relate with the actual label itself, either the term anxiety or mental health. It's just not something I feel is me, if that makes any sense, even if it is. And I guess that's maybe why I'm still sometimes skeptical about these things being of a psychological origin. Although it doesn't help that I can remember when it started quite vividly. It was a day or two after I had a general anaesthetic, and then quite suddenly I started to feel this weird stuff. And it always makes me wonder, was it the procedure itself that either traumatized me, or did the general anaesthetic affect me somehow? Again, here I am being skeptical of what the doctors keep telling me. There isn't always a clear cause and effect going on, but the one pattern I see is that if I have a long break from work, or if, I choose a career as a YouTuber for a few months, I do start to feel better after a few days, and I don't feel these symptoms as often or at all. So my current assumption is that this really does stem almost entirely from work. But don't get me wrong, there are probably lots of other little things that don't help, like the fact that I try and multitask all the time. Social media probably doesn't help. The fact that I have a YouTube channel and not really any time to make videos for it, maybe my house being messier than I'd like. There are loads of things that could be contributing, but I think the main thing is work. So maybe it's down to imposter syndrome, feeling like I'm not doing enough, not smart enough. But this is where I start to psychoanalyze myself and my situation, which is probably not a good idea. But I do wonder if a simpler job, a less subjective profession, something where you just have a task and you do it and you're done, might help. And just for those who are curious who don't know, I'm a UX designer currently working at a large games company. Somewhat stressful, but I'm not saving people's lives. I'm not going to war or anything like that. The reason I share this now is because recently I just had to take a little bit of time off work because my body went a bit mad and kind of stopped me in my tracks for no apparent reason. So these thoughts were fresh in my mind, and so while they were fresh, I thought I could articulate them more clearly to you, and by doing so, hopefully help some of you. And even if, like me growing up, you feel perfectly fine, perfectly normal, maybe something like this could surprise you later down the line. I don't want any sympathy, by the way. Humans don't get much more lucky than me. My job, my family, my upbringing, my wealth. I'm about as lucky as humans get, and I'll do just fine. My next steps are just to think of a few practical solutions to help me control whatever this is. There are plenty to try. Meditation is a very common one. Quitting social media, longer screen breaks, more exercise, just changing my routine in other ways, changing my job if I have to. I find playing instruments help, working on music, that kind of thing. One thing I will end on though is this. I've made an interesting realization a few years ago. Everyone has some weird crap going on in their life. I grew up thinking there are normal, perfectly healthy people, and then there is a very tiny percent of people, maybe say 1 in 100, who have some weird condition, a missing finger, eczema, diabetes, alopecia, whatever. But most people, they have a clean bill of health. But as I grew up, I started to realise that nearly everyone you know has stuff going on, be it as little as an ingrowing toenail or as big as a life-threatening disease. Everyone is fighting their own little battles, and sometimes it's with mental health. Nobody has this perfect, mythical, clean bill of health. this perfect body that you kind of assume is the norm growing up. And if you do at the moment, then I'm sorry to say you probably won't by the time you're, 35 or whatever. We're all just weird sacks of fluid that sometimes malfunction. And just think, if the people you know the most intimately have this stuff going on in their lives, you can be sure that the ones you don't know so well do too. So I guess we should just be nice to each other and stuff. Which is annoying. I was enjoying being a horrible person. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you're comfortable, feel free to share if you've had any experiences similar to mine in the comments below. Depending on the response I get to this video, and if say more than just my mum watches this, I may talk about some other similar topics which are kind of along the same lines. I'm fully expecting this video to get way less views, but like I said, if it helps just a few people, then maybe it's worth it, and maybe I'll follow up with some other similar stuff. Thanks for watching. Oh, and I'm getting really into my music production at the moment, so there's a link in the description if you're interested in that kind of thing too. Love you all lots, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
The control point is being captured.